All right. We are here with the second installment of the Unlimited Pasta Salad podcast. This is Salad.
It's Noodles.
All right. And today we're going to talk a little bit about defensive mechanics and how they let you play individual classes. It's probably not going to be a very long discussion, this one. We're just going to go overview some stuff. So let's get into it. The main thing about defensive mechanics is they give you more freedom to play aggressive
Dumb.
or not get punished by stuff.
Or do really dumb shit and get away
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. I mean, that's the big thing. If you're trying to learn to, like, that's just go for it. See what you can get away with.
Push
But
boundaries.
yeah, exactly. So, um, when we talk about defensive mechanics, I mean stuff like Shadow Step. It's obviously the most common one you'll see. And then you got like Teleport, Stone Form and
Circle
stuff.
protection.
Circle Protection,
Armor.
Armor. I wasn't really going to talk about Armor, but it is one. I wouldn't say it's not.
Yeah, we'll go into armor on
Yeah,
some
that's
other
going to be a
podcast session.
whole big
Yeah,
discussion.
that'll be its own thing, but that's one of those things.
Yeah, and but we'll go down the list as we talk about individual classes. Um, So when we're talking about stuff like Shadow Step or Teleport, movement ability is the big one. Teleport is found on like 4 classes, so it's definitely one of the more relevant ones in terms of understanding what you can do with it or how it affects the game. And then you got a bunch of static
Place to
ones,
sneeze.
like Shadow Step, Stone Form, Forest Barrier, Astral Intervention you can also use. Then there's Circle Protection,
That's the
Troll's
best.
Blood, Phoenix Tears, and same vein, True Grit.
Gift of air.
Oh, actually, I forgot about Gift of Air. I forgot to write that one down.
Yeah,
That
that one's fucking broken.
that's the Cheese Lord enchantment.
That's the one you get to fuck around and find out.
Yeah, until someone kills you and then you're sad.
I mean, gotta do it the right way at least.
Yeah. So, with that being said, if we're talking static, the biggest thing is to be aware of positioning. Um, Obviously, if you can't, the qualifier for being able to be affected by release and such is can't move and can't fight. So with Shadow Step, Stone Form, Force Barrier, Astral Intervention, if you get caught too close to the enemy team or whatever, and you're using it, you'll run the risk of getting forced out and then just killed on the spot. So it's
It's
pretty.
also like a good time to, use it if you're just trying to stall.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna talk about that stuff. So be mindful of positioning. Same with movement ones like Blink, Teleport. Um, there's two big parts to teleport. It's the path that you're taking to where you go, because if you're casting teleport on yourself, you can come out of it whenever you want. And if you consider the path you're going to take, most of the time you realistically shouldn't ever get to your destination and then come out of it. You should plan to either go to a certain point and then your destination is past that and you just come out early, or you try to bait people to move and then you just react and then just come out whenever you need to. And Blink is kind of a different, where it lets you move around the field very aggressively and then you just come out as long as you're not near someone. Um, Troll's Blood, Phoenix Tears is kind of similar thing to the static one. Is obviously it procs when you get killed. So instead of that, you'll get frozen in place, and there's a couple things to that. Like, it's an enchantment, so people can dispel you because you're just sitting there frozen. You can't do anything about it. And if you get caught in a bad spot, you're just going to start dying repeatedly. So you gotta be mindful of when you take trades, or when you get punished first, whatever. Um,
Don't go like into the enemy line with fucking troll's blood by yourself. You're just gonna sit there for a
yeah,
while.
there's some traps. There's definitely some traps you can get caught in. I think Troll's Blood can be strong, but a lot of the time it's camera's freaking out. We good? All right, there it goes. Okay,
There it goes.
and then
I didn't break it.
yeah, Troll's Blood definitely has some traps where you just get
Same thing
stuck.
with Phoenix Tears.
Phoenix Tears gives you your equipment back. It replenishes your armor and stuff. So if you're playing a Marshal with Phoenix Tears, it's a lot safer. But Troll's Blood
Yeah,
doesn't
but
do
if you
that.
don't have armor, you're still gonna get fucked.
You're just gonna die instantly, or people are just gonna hear you come out because you have to declare it, and then yeah, you're just gonna run away or die, you know. So big thing is positioning. Be mindful. And then the next thing when it comes to defensive build is the stuff it lets you get away with. So obviously, if you're an assassin, you have access to like 4 instances of one-liners that just get you out of whatever you're doing. Like you can use that to
It's
play.
literally the fuck around and find out class.
It really kind of is actually. Um, you can you can just run into melee with someone real quick. You can throw like 2 shots. You see them throw something, or you take like an arm or whatever, and you just nope, and then just disengage. And then you just repeatedly do that. You go back to your team. You get healed and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the big thing. Is I think with one line escapes, Shadow Step, Stone Form, Force Barrier not as much because it's hard to abuse that as a wizard. Um, like there's a lot of stuff you could do where you posture aggressive and then you you quickly use your escapes to not get punished or at least not very much. And then
You can use it to stall too if you want.
yeah, there's
Just take it, eat up
lots of
enemy
cases.
time, and yeah,
I would say like in theory, nine classes have access to release, but when you're on a field and you just kind of sit there in a shadow step, like 90% of the time, people are just gonna let you sit there. Like they just won't do anything about it. Like I think an average field is just gonna let you sit in your ability and just ignore you. Act like you're not a threat, and then you're just,
yeah. It all comes down to whether I feel like using up an ability or a spell to take care of something that I could just let sit there and just eat up its own time, or do I ultimately feel threatened that if I'm not paying attention and I let this go, is it going to come back to bite me?
yeah,
And it's just
yeah,
kind of like if I know the person well enough, 9 out of 10 times I'm just going to let it go because I'm not too concerned about it. But if it's someone like I think is a really strong player or someone who has a history of getting out of an ability, who either can do it really quickly when no one knows and can get behind me, then yeah, I'm just gonna end it there. I don't want to fucking deal with that.
yeah. I say good players won't let you do whatever you want unless they just don't think you're gonna do a whole lot, as you come out. Or some players know that you just like to sit there for 10 minutes. I've seen players that will actually just like they'll stone form and just sit there for 4 minutes of the game until like one person walks by. They just get one kill. It's like that.
That I've done something similar on purpose. Like it was back when you remember that 4 foot tower shield I used to have.
Yep.
So I got frozen once, but I like purposely like fucking starfished with that thing out, and then like
That's
no
how you
one was gonna
table
come.
like flat.
Yeah,
Okay.
like you put it out, so you get this big ass fucking thing, and then I'm standing next to it, so you have like a fucking 4 foot by 4 foot wall that nobody can get through, and no one's gonna come close enough to shatter me or anything. So the people on my team are just like using it for cover just to hide.
Yeah. Yeah, I say you're completely allowed to impede play with while unfrozen, which I mean half the time it's not your fault. Someone freezes you somewhere, you're just in the way. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. Mm, So what were we talking about? One-liners? We were
One-liners.
talking about aggressive play. Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, so if you want to play aggressive, you just want to like cheese people out. Assassin's the way. You just run in and you shadow step. You kind of got to gauge whether or not a shadow step is going to get you killed. Smart scouts will try to force you out of every shadow step on top of you, so you die. So you gotta
I
kind
think
of
Assassin's one of those classes that has like a really low skill floor, but also like if played well has a really high skill ceiling at
yeah.
the
I,
same
I
time.
think I think it's
Like
definitely
you can walk in, play assassin at like a brand new player, you know, have very good effectiveness being brand new because you're not really new at the game. Like you,
plus
you
poison's
have,
really strong.
limited access. Yeah, poison's fucking broken. And then like as you get better at the game and you understand the way abilities work and like the way classes work with other classes and skills like that, assassin has the ability to just be like one of those really broken classes if done right, especially since they're the only class that gets fucking small throwies. You just take like an entire bag of nothing but them.
You just I think I saw someone who had like some they had like some arm they had some kind of sleeve that they like could attach. I think it had like notches in it where they had like
Velcro or something.
spell balls,
Oh
so
yeah, I know what
they
you're talking
pull them
about.
out real quick. But you can actually just apply
Yeah,
the
it's like
same idea
PVC.
with a velcro sleeve, where you just have
Yeah,
velcro because it's soft enough that you can put it as a cover, and then you just slap a bunch on there.
yeah. Either
And then you
that or
just
you just get like a duffel bag full of like 50 throwies and then just go to town. Like,
the backpack gaming.
yeah, you just find somebody who's not playing the game, have them carry around a bucket specifically for you, and run around with you, and
When
then
I
you
was
can just throw throwies.
yeah, I mean when I was actually new at the game and I was playing barbarian, like like I used armor and that helped me, melee people because I didn't have to worry about dying as much
Yeah,
because I know I have armor, right? Um,
that's essentially what I
pl-
did when I used to have that brig, the set that you have now, that Brigandine.
yep.
I used to just run around 4 or 5 points of armor, run Florentine, whatever. You're gonna hit me, cool. I still have a bunch more points. Good luck.
But yeah, I when I was hitting the levels where you get throwaways and stuff, like I love throwaways because I could just hit you from afar and it's like I don't
Yeah,
have to worry about stuff. It's such a safe way to play to just throw stuff at people.
they're good distractions too. You can just toss one up in the air, and either like someone's more than likely just gonna look because they see something in the corner of their eye.
Yeah.
It's
So
like that old dodgeball trick where you throw one up in the air, they go to catch it, and you throw the
yeah,
other
the
one at their
lob, the
chest.
lob and whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of the same thing.
pretty much. But yeah, one-liners let you play really aggressive. You can get away with a lot of stuff. We were talking before, like one of the things that make assassins such a high skill cap is if you're really good at fighting, and you're really good at gauging like exactly when gonna start getting hit, or if you take a hit or whatever, and you're confident in your play, you can just skirmish until people start to rotate, and then as soon as they do, you just either back out or whatever if they force you to use a blank. You know, you can get a lot done with that. And the same kind of applies for playing scout or something like that, where you can play really forward, you can skirmish. You have 3 points of armor, so you can contest most classes. And you have a whole person if you need to avoid something, and then you have a release if you use off CC on you, and then you got a shadow step you can use to bait abilities. With that being said, you can also use those one-liners to bait abilities. Um, Obviously, if your incant's like, I take for stone, step of shadows, like it's fast enough that if someone else is doing something, they're not going to react to it, quickly enough. So if you catch someone late enough in their incant, um, like they'll probably finish it, but you'll just be insubstantial, or you'll be in a state where it doesn't matter. So you can actually just waste abilities doing that, and that's a pretty important skill to try to learn. If you could try to time it, you understand how far along in the pacing of the people while you're talking, that you can say your thing and not have them finish it on you. And same thing with someone throws something at you and you think you're gonna get hit, like usually spell balls because you can block everything else, and then you just use your relevant one-line ability to avoid damage, and then you quickly come out of it if you can, and then you just go back to whatever you're doing. A lot of, like in most cases, in almost all of these cases, the abilities that we're going to be talking about are per life. Almost all of them, I think, with maybe the exception of like Force Barrier or something. Stone Form is charged nearly per life. It's charged 3. So you can do that stuff pretty consistently, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's really a waste. Obviously, like you can get caught with you can get caught not having it because you used it too early on something you could have just done something else for instead. There's some gauging to do with whether or not it's valuable enough, but for the most part, if you have a defensive ability, in theory, you shouldn't be able to die until you use it with optimal play. And we talked a little about staggering objectives and stuff. Let me think of a more relevant way to use that. You can people will respect or not respect your presence as an insubstantial or a frozen or whatever person. Like I said, I think the average player will find that most people won't release them out of it. I mean, that's region dependent, whatever else. Some people love fucking with people, so they'll just release you out of everything they possibly can. But even if you're threatening people, I feel like most of the time will just let you sit there. They'll just let you sit there, and that's really helpful when you have like static points and like a domination game or whatever other kind of relevant game. If you have a game where people have weird spawn points, where there's like one here, a closer one that's longer, whatever else, you can camp stuff out with that, and then just do whatever you want to do. And one of the big points to doing stuff like that is that whether or not they're going to release you, I think maybe 50-50 chance, like maybe not including new players because they don't really understand what's going on, so they're not going to play around it. But people will go around you. They'll stay away from you because whether or not you're sitting there insubstantial, like in theory, you're threatening at some point. So, you'll make them take suboptimal routing to wherever they're going, or they'll veer away from
My
wherever you
favorite
are.
thing is like when you get a new player who doesn't understand like the rules yet, like they're still learning, and they go up to like an assassin or something, and they're like, they start to do tracking or whatever, or they go to whatever to pull them out, and fucking the assassin's just like, I return to the physical world and just like fucking kills them right there on the spot. It's just like, get fucked.
I remember I saw one guy at an event years ago. I think it was the event where we had V7 games, but that was it. There's no V7 after that, and it was some old dude that I think he'd been in the game for a while, but I'd never seen him before ever again, and he went to I went to kill him or something, and then he went to ambulance teleport, and then he didn't finish it, and he just killed me. I was like, oh well, I guess you did that. I was like, well, fucking played, my dude. You got me there.
I never thought about that. That's hilarious, actually.
Back in the day, you pass through the trace. It's kind of like teleport. It's an ambulance spell. Pass without a trace. I pass without a trace. Say a certain amount of times. You can do it while moving, but what it does is it makes you're basically out of game and you go back to base and then you come out. But I'd have all these cases where I would be running away because it's naturally ambulant, and people would hear like when they get used to chasing people or chasing me using it, and then give up. But I don't finish it.
Stop.
But I don't finish it because they didn't force me to continue using it. So I get like 10 extra uses out of it basically. Yeah, that was pretty funny. I like that. So
That's my favorite
you always
thing.
gotta commit. You always gotta commit. You gotta make sure they use their ability. If you're gonna do anything, you get something out of it.
Yeah.
Get something out of it. Oh, what I was saying about people taking suboptimal running because you're sitting there in shadow step. I think Blink's a funnier one too because you're moving around, so people are like, yeah, well, what's this guy doing? But they not everyone knows that you have to come out like outside of 10, so you're just like
My
creeping on
favorite thing is
people.
just yeah, like my favorite thing is you just like if you know they're in there, you just stand on them. Just
Yeah,
don't let
if
them
you're
go anywhere.
smart, you just find some new player. You just be like, that dude is insubstantial. He can't hurt you, but just stand on him for the rest of the game, and
Yeah.
then
I back when we used to play at Borealdale, I used to do that shit all the time. Um the player that shall not be named who played only assassin. Um every time I'd hear him go into blink, I'd just be like, "Nope, I'm gonna fucking sit on you for the rest of the game."
see, I don't like doing that stuff because I don't. I feel like I'm the valuable player, and I just feel like it's a bad trade for me to be
I
doing
mean, if
that.
I'm playing healer, and like I can, just sit there and camp it out long enough, and like if anybody comes to me, like it's not gonna
I mean, you could just greater
whatever it is what it
release
is.
him
Yeah,
if you're a
exactly. Like
healer.
at any point, if I want to, like I can make it count. But also, like if that's their valuable player and I'm still effective because I'm in play and he's not, I can still do things and he can't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess in theory, if they're smart, they're gonna. Well, if they're smart, they're gonna realize that their 1v1 is stronger because they're the weaker player. But if they don't have the galaxy brain, and they'll retreat to their team to try to force you off of them, and then
Yeah, good luck.
you're just playing against their team while they still can't get out. So I mean, either
Exactly.
way, it's good. Either way, it's pretty good for you, I guess. But what I was saying is, people will they won't release you, but they'll respect that you're there, so they'll go around you. And like, if you're just kind of blockading in front of a spawn or like between their path to an objective or whatever, or if you're just sitting like next to an objective, you're gonna have the conglomeration of players while you're just sitting here, and they're gonna be like a little bit away from you, so you don't come out of it and kill them, and then they're just gonna go
You just
like
gotta have
around you.
you just gotta have like the teammate on your side, right? Like if
Yep.
you're the one that's stuck in blink, you just gotta have like a friendly scout just like out of nowhere run by you and go tracking, tracking, tracking. And then just then be like they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, and while we're still talking about one-liners, on top of baiting abilities and stuff, like if someone overextends to fight you, you can just shadow step so they're overextended, and you're just now they're in a bad position and they can't kill you anymore, unless they have a release or whatever. So I mean, there's lots of cases. What do
I
you
think
say?
that's probably like my biggest complaint about just like class games in general. People take like these spell lists and everything with all this shit, and they only use like
Yeah.
barely anything. That's gotta be like my biggest complaint, is people just not using their full spell list. Like there's like a point where like maybe I don't need to, but there can be like a game that's like super intense and someone's still not using everything they have.
Yeah. See, I say I've used the same spell list for a long time, and
Yeah, same. My go-to.
like maybe like I have stuff on my list as like a safety. So like when I play AON, like I always have two stone skins, two lycanthropy, two gift of earth. Even though gift of earth is like it's inefficient as a spell, I have it in case like I need to use it. Even though I don't really ever use
Yeah.
it because I understand what I'm doing enough that I try to avoid that.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's always like that exception,
yeah.
like the
Sometimes I go
backup
into
or
it.
whatnot, but
Sometimes I go into a game where it ends up being grindy, and like I didn't have a choice. You know, like there's only so much you could do to avoid people running at you when they spawn in 5 seconds. So, but
yeesh.
yeah, like maybe I don't use teleport all the time, but I'm generally using most stuff on my
I
list.
think
And
that's
if
probably the least spell that I use is probably teleport.
yeah, I've
Like it's super situational for me.
once I started thinking about all the ways it can be used, I started using it more. Like if I'm not gonna use it for myself, like just use it
Yeah,
on
I use
someone
it
else
for
to
other
send
people.
people into stuff. You can bridge
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
use it
bridge a
probably
lot of
more.
space.
I use it more on other people than I do for myself at this point. Like occasionally it's like a situational thing where I just want to like get to the other side of the field and I don't want to be bothered. But most of the time it's usually just me setting another player like, hey, go do this for me, teleport.
Yeah, I'll find games where, at event games where there's like a mash of like 70 players, and like they just get stuck in like a place, like
Yeah,
not killing each other or whatever. And I'm like, please, I just need you to go in there and make something happen, so like
just make
I can kill
space.
someone or whatever. You just make space.
Just make a hole.
Yeah, it doesn't always work out, but I mean, it's better to try stuff, just than to sit there until you eventually get grinded out and lose the game.
Just send your barbarian in there to die. Let him go into fight after death.
Yeah, or they just get hit in the arms and then do nothing. the tra- a tragedy in 3 steps. Okay. Yeah, managing abilities is obviously really important. Obviously try to use your abilities, try to get value out of them, but I mean, having them allows you to play differently, and if you run out of them, you can't play that way anymore. If you're playing an assassin, you're probably going to try to look to, trade off your life so you can get your stuff back, and then just, keep doing your thing. So, I think we're going to get into specific classes now. We're going to talk a little bit
Gang.
about each. The first one is Archer. They're alphabetical. Archer has reload, but it's probably the least efficient defensive mechanic in the game as far as.
Like it could be super useful, but just like for what you have to do, like the incant, and then
Yeah, it's very long. You
if
have to
someone
use it.
runs, yeah,
You have
if
to use it
someone runs
very
upon you, you gotta be ready.
preemptively. Very preemptively.
Like
If
it's not a bad skill in general. Like don't get me wrong, but just like for defensive purposes, it's not great.
Yeah, it's mostly just to make Archer playable. That's its main goal. And if
Go
you're
get
on a
your arrows
if
while
you're
you're
on a
still
big
alive.
flank, you're all on the side of the field all by yourself, and someone like enemy spotted, and then they start running it. You're just like, all right, reload time, and then you just get out of there. Other than that, it's very limited use. I don't really have anything else to talk about as far as that class is concerned. You could pinning arrow. I could talk about pinning arrow being defensive. I mean, shoot people if you think they're
Yeah,
gonna run
it
at you.
go. Yeah, it
That's
kind of
as
goes
far as
both
I go.
ways. Like
You
you can use
gotta
it
you just gotta
defensively, you can use
outplay
it
people.
offensively.
You pinning arrow. You gotta outplay them with your aim.
Yeah, I
So
think
like,
when we like go into actual classes,
yeah, we're
like
gonna have very in-depth class talks at some point.
I think we'll go more into that at some point. But for just like this conversation, there's not a whole lot to it right now.
Yeah. Assassin is obviously the biggest offender of using
Yeah, it
defensives
is.
to do whatever they want. And there's a couple lines to play. So we're going to talk about this in terms of like this is the kind of role or position that the class plays, and then like what does these set of abilities change in the way they get to play is how we're going to approach this. So for assassin, you're a skirmisher, or you take big flanks or whatever, depending on whether or not you want to play like a bow or not, or focus on using range. You're either taking big angles, or you're just running through the enemy team to try to make something happen, or you're stalling out objectives. Um, Shadow Step, obviously, all the stuff we've talked about is very applicable. Um, for an assassin's case, when you're playing skirmish and stuff, and you have poison ready and you have armor, like you can meet people to fight, and your trades will generally be really efficient. If you don't realize, or if someone doesn't declare something and you get hit by armor breaking, you just have an instant out, or you have two instant outs really. You have an efficient one that just lets you move right away, and then you have one that just locks you in place. You know, and then you have teleport, which you can use to take space or take big angles. There's lots of different ways to use teleport. If you walk straight through the enemy team and they're not willing to get you out of it, you can just take space. You can come out of it immediately, blink, or immediately shadow step, and then the enemy team will do what they do. If they leave you alone, then you have a huge amount of options where you can you know bully people if you want. And yeah, that's that one. The next one would be Bard. And as far as Bard is concerned, Bard has a lot. I'd say more than Assassin. If we're being technical, Bard has like what 6 or 7 songs that do different things, and they're
Not even
all
including like shove and awe and
yeah, they're all one,
know.
and all the songs are one-liners except for Visit, I think. And then yeah, they all do different stuff. You can use it reactively. I I almost skipped Bard because there's a lot to talk about if I'm going to go into depth, so I'm not going to talk about a lot here.
You have hanging from your headphone,
Where?
your fucking ear cuff. The
Oh,
fuck? What the fuck?
I don't know.
It's still there. What is that?
Maybe I think it's maybe like a little bit of DAP or something.
There we go.
Yeah, it's like adhesive. I don't know. Whatever.
I'm leaving that in.
Yeah,
That's
that's fine.
good.
But yeah. So I mean, you got a song that makes you into arrows. You got 3 different types of songs that make you immune to magic in some way. Interference is just light and soul, and then you got the one that stops, basically stops all the spell balls, and then you got one that stops command.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if I'm playing Archer or something, and you cast fucking, the fucking immune to fucking arrows and shit at me, I'm still gonna shoot arrows at you just because I want to hit you.
Well, you're only immune to damage from arrows. Well, you
Oh no,
personally,
I'm
you
just
can't
like,
get wounded. Like you can get
yeah,
your
no,
armor can break and stuff, and you can still get
oh no,
pinned and all
I just
that.
still want to hit you with arrows. If you cast that shit at me, I'm still gonna shoot you with arrows
Just
just because I want to hit you.
but yeah, I mean, Bard has. I say we got deflection, freedom, interference, visit, determination, and survival. Um, they all do very different things. There's they apply to where they apply. You know, I
It's gonna
think
be really fucking powerful.
Bard is a extremely high skill cap class because if you're constantly reading the field or constantly reading who is approaching you, or if you're just crazy fast, you can just
Yeah,
use whatever. You can just use abilities on command. If someone say buy my power, and then you're just like, boom. They're all short enough that you can beat basically anyone to anything unless they turn and throw something at you. You know,
cards. If your reaction time's fast enough, like it's such
yeah.
a broken class if you can do it well.
If you can get through the decision making process, if you can get used to it and you just reflexively use the right magic or the right
Yeah,
song, like that class is crazy. You're not gonna get punished by anything. There's a moth behind me. It's not
I
on my
just
mic.
saw it
I
too.
saw this. It's not on my video. But yeah, and then Song of Survival being the I can't die. That you can also get released out of it by a teammate, and you can just have it permanently, which is nuts. Like I don't think anything in the game can beat that. Outside of even if you dispel it, you just go get yourself killed and you have it permanently until they dispel it. And like, how many dispels are going to use on you for that, right? Like you just have to CC them and hope for the best. And then there's I didn't really mention it, but using offensive magic defensively. In some cases, like particular classes like healer, wizard, and like verbal only bards. You have to
Warrior.
what?
Do fucking command or whatever it is. I forget the name of this fucking the ability, but that's how I usually use it. The insult.
Oh yeah, I say like some classes will find a lot of cases where they're forced to use stuff on people in order to force them off of you. Terror, like bard, verbal bard with terror versus barbarian is a classic example of the guy's just going to run at you and you don't have any options other than shove, which is too temporary to be good enough, and then stun, which is too limited to be good enough. And then you have, your certain amount of terrors, which keep them off you for 30 seconds. And then other than that, you just have to rely on teammates.
Yeah, you just gotta cast terror at him, and then you gotta run at him. You gotta make him run too.
I was
Like
thinking today about
cardio day.
I was thinking today is how much can I make playing like teleport wizard with throws work, where I teleport through people and then I throw them into our team because it's a 50-foot shove, and then I ambulate to chase them to catch them again halfway in their throw, so they're really in my team.
So you really just play like a fucking Jedi with force shove.
I would say if you play
uh
with a minimal, if a min long and a short, and then you look scary. You maybe have like word self on yourself, so you know they can't just hit you with stuff, and then you just like teleport to the enemy team. It's like level 2 and per life, you know. So you can teleport, and then you can terror people or whatever, and then
we're just making a
throw.
Jedi class now.
Just hope paladin and anti-paladin are in need of changes. But yeah, as far as Bard goes, like the main thing is you're either a midline to backline support caster or you're a skirmisher. You know, you got armor and then your sword and board or whatever, and then you run around with your songs and try to be as invincible as possible. And then when something happens, you shove it away, and then
You
you run,
cry.
and then you run. We got Barbarian, which has very little as far as steps goes. It's got a kill trigger, blessing and wound, which is very weak. I I think they should have done something with that. I don't think it's a
Hard
very.
too because like Barbarian already gets like a bunch of stuff. Like it gets immune to command and immune to
Yeah,
subdual.
I'd say
And
that's a
then
lot of
like you
design
get
space.
yeah, and then you
They
get like
really made it
crushing
hard.
breaking.
And,
You get crushing breaking, 3 points armor, medium
well, you get
shields.
breaking. You get crushing while in FAD.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you get so much stuff with like barbarian. Like you may not get a lot of abilities. You may not get like a lot of really broken stuff. But like what it does get is like super. If used well, is just like super, just not okay. It's got a lot to it already. I don't think like adding too much more. Like I
Yeah, I think
honestly like the blessing against wounds is still pretty strong.
I said blessing of wounds makes people that don't use armor when they should feel better about playing the class. But obviously 3 points of armor is like 1,000 times better than just having like three blessings.
Yeah,
You know,
having
like
both.
like, and it's kind of awkward because they have to hit through your armor before the blessing procs. It really should have been like they should have gotten like a word self or something. It just blocks an effect. I think that would have been way way better.
Yeah, that'd have been. I think that'd have probably been too much with the immunities that it already has. Like immunities and a fucking award self.
Yeah, I
That's a little
say
too
that
much.
when they were porting stuff over to the class, like the two
I
immunities
think
in FAD was a lot of design space. Like it's hard to balance that because like Fighter for Death, I mean, like in most cases it's not insane, but I mean it can be. It could literally just be a game-winning ability if you get the right
the only
opportunity.
thing that I would possibly change about Barbarian would just be increase its armor cap by 1. Like other than
Yeah,
that, I think the class is fine.
yeah,
It's just underutilized.
yeah. And people always complain about brutal strength, but I'm like, or brutal strike, but I'm like, like if you catch people, like you're a skirmish class. Like your thing is you have armor, and anyone else that armor is other than a warrior going to lose to you in terms of just the amount of raw hits it takes to win versus you, and you have an unlimited heal if you get a kill, um, on top of the blessing if you get a kill and in your armor, you have the armor breaking. But now if someone meets you on a skirmish, right? You just leg them and you brutal strength, and now they're cursed for the rest of their life. And
Yeah,
then like if they're far enough away from their team, no one takes greater heal because like why would they? There's no other instances of curse that are good
almost no
enough.
one takes greater heal.
I mean, your heal is already unlimited. Like why would you take greater heal? Like there's no
It's
case.
super situational.
Yeah, I would say if every barbarian played Brutal Strike like perfectly, I think people would start taking greater heal because they'd realize that they have to.
Yeah,
But until that happens, nothing's going to
I
change.
generally would
But
take greater heal in like quests.
but yeah, so you catch people on a flank, and you hit them in the leg. Now they're crawling and they have to slowly crawl to someone that either kills them or whatever, or they're just crippled for the rest of their life. And I can't say that's weak, honestly. I don't. But I mean, other than the immunities and the blessing that we're talking about, the adrenaline barbarian is a big tool that they have that allows them to do what they're doing for a long time. Which I really think marshals just need more in the way of like reusable stuff. Like you look at casters versus marshals, and it's like I got like 9 abilities that are per life, and then a bunch of stuff that's stronger than like everything you have, you know. And then you get marshals, like, and people are like, but what if they had a charge times 5 on one ability? I'm like, I just give them stuff. Like the big problem with marshals is that like,
A counter to everything.
well, you don't have any agency against magic, you know. Like when I play barbarian, I'm like, man, like people are just casting stuff at me, and like I have to just take it, you know, like I because I can't beat it any other way. And if I'm not taking it, someone else is. It's well, we'll eventually have an edition that fixes that
One day.
one day. But yeah, adrenaline is a big thing. It doesn't work at all the same like Shadow Step and all that other stuff works, but I mean, there's one really cute thing you do with it, and not a lot of people know this. So it is a kill trigger, but it has a 30-second timer on it. So if you get a kill, right, you mentally count that 30 seconds in your head, and then you go somewhere else. Someone hits you before the time goes, you could still proc it. You could still activate it, and you know that's a pretty important skill to have. I used to think you have to be outside of 20 to use it, but either way, like you know, you take an arm somewhere in that, and the timer isn't up, you can just back up and heal for free. It's pretty big. Barbarian is obviously very basic. Otherwise, next is Druid. Uh, as
Druid gets too much.
I think Druid's problem is that it gets equipment for free, where other people have to like physically buy their equipment and then wear it to field. And obviously it just makes them stronger than everything else because armor is a huge advantage in this game.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't think it's not really Druid's fault. I think if in a world where everyone had armor, if everyone wore the equipment that you like your class gives you, like what does Druid do on paper? You have all these
It
enchantments.
calls lightning.
I mean, there's like 3 other kill spells in the game, or 4 even. But like you can't give anyone armor because you're gonna be giving casters armor that can't compete with people that have their full gear. Like 2 points of
Or
armor.
even you give it to monk.
Yeah, but I mean, what like a monk with a stone skin isn't competing with you know like the 3 to 6 points of armor that the other classes have. So it's still worse.
I mean, it ultimately depends because like if you play like an 8 foot polearm monk,
Yeah, I say monk's advantage is that you can play from 10 feet and then nothing
yeah,
can hit you. You're unkillable until they actually walk up and melee you. But I
it's
say
all about
like
speed.
you're playing a druid. Everyone has max gear. Like you can't give out enchantments to anyone. Like besides like a couple things, and then you can't melee yourself because you're just gonna die because everyone has such superior stuff. And then poison is kind of limited because like everyone has armor, so it's harder to make trades. And then like what do you have as a class? You have 2 verbals and then some spell balls. So like it's the
That's it.
there's like a dichotomy there in a perfect world, I guess, but we're never gonna get that.
No.
But we're talking about stone form, the almighty teleport, and Trill's blood. Stone form is the better shadow step in almost every way. You do all the same things that the other stuff do, but you got a much faster incant to come out of it. You got a state that's uh, much has much less counterplay to it, and then you're allowed to impede play, which is a big thing,
You
big
just
difference.
stand in front of people.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to stop you. So the big thing about stone form is that because you can come out of it, it's kind of the same thing with shadow step, but people get caught in the trap where they think, oh, I come out of it instantly. So they sit really patient. They get really patient with their stone form, but then they're too patient, and then their team loses space, and then now it's like you can't come out of it without dying, and then you can't use it again because it's a per refresh charge unless you took more, which you could, but it's not every case you're
Nothing
gonna
but
have.
that.
I've seen people do it. I've seen
Yeah,
people
that's all
do
you
it.
gotta do. That's the goal of the game. You take nothing but that, and then you're just there to stall.
Yeah, I mean, you just be annoying, I guess, and then yeah. So there's definitely some traps to that. I think it's almost exactly the same length as Shadow Step, so there's not really any incantation differences as far as timing and speed go.
It's easier to get
Step of
off.
Shadows, take from stone. I think it's maybe just a tiny bit slower. Maybe just a tiny bit slower. So all the same technique applies where you can play posture really aggressively. You can use it on command, and you come out of it real fast. It's better in that case because if people are being aggressive, you can come out of it faster, much faster than Shadow Step. And we talked about Troll's Blood already, about getting caught because you're dying in a weird spot, proccing Troll's Blood. We've talked quite a bit about teleport. As far as Druid is concerned, you're not really a class that can grind, so you're not going to play like an assassin where you teleport into the enemy team because you don't want to do that most of the time, unless you're just I mean you're like it's you need your per lives back and you're just trying to trade and you just get in there to be scary and then come out. Other than that, like Swift teleport is like the optimal option for just disengaging from any fight. Like if you're playing like a flank or something and people start collapsing on you, you just leave. And especially if you're playing with a bow and you're doing like the assassin-esque kind of thing where you take a huge flank and you're just shooting arrows at their back line, uh, you could just swift teleport and get a relatively free escape in most cases. All right, we got healer.
My favorite.
I you know I'm disappointed I didn't get to play healer. I was leveling healer when 7.7 was like fading, and I wanted to play level 6 healer, but I never got to play 7.7 level 6 healer where they have like per life stun and stuff.
Fuck.
Oh man, per life
Let's
stun.
see. I if I was playing back then,
Oh my
the
god,
way
that's
I
what I
play
was.
right now,
I wanted it. I wanted it so bad.
like as somebody that like literally got their Paragon healer through playing like aggressive healer, not even playing, like I play battle healer. If I had the ability to have per life stunts, I'd be so broken.
Yeah, you can have up to two, I think.
Oh my god,
Yeah, you
fuck
have
that.
two per life. I mean, to be fair, you only got 4 lives, but that was the case for everyone. So that's like 2 free kills per life,
That's yeah,
you
free
know.
kills. That's
And they had
fucking
a
that's
bunch of
eight
other
free kills
stuff.
total right
Oh
there.
my, wounding was there wasn't a lot of move ambulance spells. There wasn't the like ambulance existed back then, but it was in dance. Only Bard had it, and it was like you gotta say like a fucking 20 line verse that you come up with yourself. Say dance and then dance again, and then you say the spell, and then you can use while moving. Nonsense. But there were some spells that were naturally able to be used while moving, and wounding was one of them, and it was one of the few per lives, and that was really strong back then. So the amount of time Wizard had as well. The amount of time every time I'd see like Talos or someone playing healer or Wizard, if someone would run at them, they'd sprint away, start casting wounding on their left leg while kind of looking at them loosely, and then a guy would just die. I loved it. I loved it. I think Hold Person also was one of the spells you can use while moving, which is nuts. Okay. Nuts. Man, V8 was definitely an upgrade as far as the game's health, but the wacky unbalanced 7.7 was fun for certain people. I'd say.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't around for that.
Yeah. So with healer, you're a midline to backline support, and you get some people like to play forward aggressive. If you're on a field with like light armor, you can get away with it just about like
100% play
anything else.
aggressive.
But yeah, so in that case, you got circle protection, which
The best
is
right there.
really bad unless you have Swift. And if you're playing priest, basically this whole list doesn't apply to you. Good luck, bud. Use your shoves to get out. That's all I have to say for that. You got shoves.
Circle protection just is like super underrated though.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can
Like
do with it,
it's
and
so broken.
it's an escape for several people, which
Yeah, it's
no
you and
other
what is it?
spell
5 people.
has. Yeah, and
It's
then
like 5 people
and there's
total.
some weird interactions where if you teleport while in it, since you're allowed to, it'll then fully proc after you come out.
Yeah.
So you can teleport a
It's
bunch of
also one of
people
those
while
like
in it, and then you'll drop your circle protection, and those people will then teleport to wherever they're going. So then you have like an extra layer of protection.
it's one of those cool things too, because like it's one of those weird scenarios where you're insubstantial. You bring other people insubstantial with you, but then they can also now start like casting abilities, recharging stuff, and like doing all that. Like you can heal somebody while you're in there.
Oh, that's we didn't. I forgot to talk about that. If you're insubstantial, you can charge abilities. So you should probably
Yeah.
do that if you're not doing anything else while you're sitting there.
Yeah, and like so, but
That's a
now, but
pretty big
like,
mechanic.
and like normally when you're insubstantial, like you're kind of, you're on your own. You can only recharge your own abilities. You can only
Yep.
like interact with yourself. But when you're in circle protection, you can literally interact with everybody that's in there with you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's one of those kind of cool abilities where if you have a healer behind you, you get wounded and like you're just kind of defending it. It's still that defensive mechanic where that healer can pull you in, can take the time to heal you now, recharge abilities, get shit ready, and then you guys go back in.
Yeah, if you have Bard in there with you, and they just use a bunch of stuff, and then you just
Yeah,
like he quickly confidences all your abilities, and then you get out of
go
COP,
back
and
in.
then you go back in, and you just a little bubble of safety. I mean, any one person can get all of you out if they're smart, but like, I mean, but it's sick. It's like 5 or 6 people in a COP. You walk up and release them. Uh, you, God be with you after that one. You want to walk up and touch release healer and their squad, rolling up on the homies
Bug.
like that. But
And even
yeah,
at that point, like I'm just gonna teleport away.
I think Swift Circle Protection is probably actually the fastest one on this list.
It's
Maybe
probably one
Seven
of the
Shadows. It's
fucking best
close.
ones.
It's close.
It's a little longer than some of the other ones. Like to say it clearly, because like the way like the
Yeah,
we
protection's a
see
long
circle
word.
protection. Well, just like circle protection, like to say it clearly, super fast. A lot of people get the word like mixed up, and it sounds like really piss poor. And I have no
Yeah,
problem calling out on it.
yeah. But
Um,
yeah. I mean, say if you're gonna play a healer, you're gonna play someone runs at you and you're like, I can't take
if
this
you
trade. I
play
don't have any
any
weapons.
healer and you're not taking circle protection, you're doing it wrong. I don't care what you're playing. If you don't have at least a circle protection in there, you're
I mean,
wrong.
it's not spirit, so if you're playing priest, it's iffy because you can't swift it.
Yeah, but even just as like that backup,
I mean, it
like
is still
you should still
charged.
take
It is
it.
still
Yeah.
chargeable, so it's like efficient, to
Was it
take as far
times?
as times.
Was it
It's a
times
charge
times times
10.
10?
It's a charge 10,
Times
so
10.
it's real slow, but it is still chargeable.
I've never had to recharge it. I've always just had a bard just do it for me.
Well, you also get if unless you're playing priest, but you get per life and eights.
Yeah.
So I mean, you
That too
really
as well.
really
Like
want.
either an aid or like steal life or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a big thing too. Because with healer, everything on this list that we're talking about, except for Phoenix Tears, is I think maybe Teleport might be 5. I have to look, but I think it's all low enough that you can experience it or make it chargeable. So you having Perlite innates means that if you want to play aggressive, instead of using your innates on like the hold person or whatever, you can extend your lives quite a bit by using your innates on the defensive mechanics that you have as a class. So
It's
to
level 4.
supplement your ability. Yeah, there you go. So you can supplement your ability to play aggressive. Um, so I mean, you got swift circumprotection if you're dedicated to staying where you are, doing everything when you're playing forward, or if you're just in your back line. If you're getting targeted by archers or whatever, and you just like fuck it, and you COP, so you can do whatever you're doing with your team. Um, and then you got your swift teleport to get out as well. And then you got Phoenix Tears, which we talked about Charles Blood and Phoenix Tears and the traps included in them. Say Phoenix Tears does give you your equipment back, so it's safer, but you still have to be careful.
You just gotta kill somebody in Phoenix Tears, and then while they're frozen, then you dispel them.
Yeah,
That's
I
the way you gotta do it.
I mean, people. I mean, I've played Druid for a long time, and I've heard all sorts of different opinions. Are people like, I think this Golem stack's really good, where you give, Golem, and then you have your armor, and then Flame Blade, and then whatever Troll's Blood, and I was like, the Troll's Blood is what's gonna ruin it. Like you got three opportunities for them to just dispel you for free. If you take an L, and then
Yep.
they just dispel you because now you're stuck there wherever you were. I'd say it really is a trap that will get you punished. And yeah. Astral Intervention as well. I forgot to mention that. It's like a worse COP. But it is on a better frequency as well. So if you want to use your Swifts on that, you can. And because it's insubstantial as well, you can also come out of it whenever you want.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Don't bother.
Yeah. I mean, if you took it and your COP is, not off cooldown, but Swift Teleport I think is better in almost all cases, unless you're looking to cheese something or, play an objective or whatever, something like that. Anyway, we got Monk. Monk is kind of a strange one as far as this talk is concerned. You're like, I don't think Monk is a frontliner, and if you disagree with me on that, like,
I think you can go both ways.
I say,
it all depends on how you play it.
I say, like, if you're using a pole, you can get away with a lot of stuff as long as you're
just
smart about your range and stuff. But
yeah, just give a monk with an 8-foot pole. Just give him a imbue weapon and just let him have fun.
Yeah, I say people have to approach. Monk's big thing is that, I mean, with skillful play, unless someone walks into melee you can't die. Nothing could kill you, well, except for a phase, but that just breaks your weapon. But yeah, and but Monk's big weakness is you don't get armor. So if anyone is approaching you where they have armor, you're at a very distinct disadvantage. If you're in a game where like a bridge battle or whatever, or something where you have to grind fast timers, there's an objective you have to fight for. Like you're at a big disadvantage. Like you have no ability to take hits safely, really.
Just stand in front of their caster classes, specifically wizard.
Yeah, I say
and
for
their
smart.
archer.
I would
Stand
say
in front of them.
So we're going to talk about magic ball block a little bit, missile block. Obviously, they do the same thing basically, but you're playing with the pole. I think that's the best way to play monk because if you're doing anything else, you're going to be taking like even matchups as far as range is concerned, and then you're going to get hit at some point. But you have a pole, you play like center to your team and stuff like that, and then you see something fly, you just like doop doop You just block it. I remember I watched another player who should not be named uh, at a Phoenix League game, and he was, they were playing Monk, and every single spell ball that went towards his team got blocked by his pole. It's actually kind of
Jeez.
impressive how accurate he was and it was like, it wasn't even like a swing block. It was like a casual block every time, and I'm like, wow, that's, I wish I could do that. Like, I'm good at blocking stuff if it's on my body, but not like not like that. That requires a
We
lot
used
of
to just
coordination.
fucking. I literally would just like when we used to play back at Borealdale. Um, we had one person who would play, Archer, and if I was playing Monk, I would literally just go, fucking just go in, stand in front of them, and just sit there.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they get ready to shoot me, I just yell Sanctuary, and I just stand there and block them so they couldn't shoot other players.
Yep. You're not technically allowed. You're not allowed to impede play with Sanctuary, but you know, I really feel like if you just
That's
want
impeding
to
play.
if you want to stand in front of your players so that they have to shoot you instead of them, like I really feel like that's perfectly fine.
Like
You
I
know,
don't think that's really so much impeding play.
I mean, especially because if you're playing like range, like they can hit you. Like they can still hit you. They just walk out of range. Like you're capable of dying to the arrows.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
like
Well, and again, like I don't really think that's like impeding play or anything. Like
I
you're
think there was
not,
a clarification that
stopping.
said it was, but I'd have to
Eh,
go look. I'd have to go
I
look.
mean,
I'm
like I can
pretty
understand if
sure
it
that
was
was iffy.
like, like regicide or something, or like a capture flag, or like something like that. But if you're like specifically just stopping, like that's no different than if you were playing like a warrior with a big shield and just standing in front of them blocking all those shots. Like it's similar.
Yeah.
Like unless it was like an objective game and you were completely stopping the objective by doing that, I probably wouldn't call you out on it.
Yeah.
Um, unless it was like super super obnoxious, then yeah,
Yeah.
I'd probably call
All right,
somebody out on
I
it.
will say. I guess I was incorrect. Sanctuary is definitely the fastest out of all of these. I forgot about it. Um, But the caveat is you can't have weapons on you. So I mean, the best you could do is you toss stuff behind people, and then you pick stuff up real quick and kill them. Other than that, if you're reactive and you drop your stuff instantly, like it, you should be impenetrable as a monk. You know, with perfect play or perfect reflexes or whatever. We got Scout. Scout only has Shadow Step. We talked about it already. There's really nothing too fancy. It's a frontliner that can drop in substantial whenever they feel like. They don't have a great frequency like the Marshall problem. I really should be charged like everything else, or just like a million per life. Maybe one of these days we'll convince people that we can change stuff.
Yeah.
And then we got Ad Bless, which is like it's I guess it's kind of reactive. You figure out what people want to cast on you, and then you just put a resist on yourself against it. There's not a lot of complexity to that I can really talk about. Um, as far as Scout's concerned, like if they had something better, uh, there'd be more to talk about. But Shadow Step is just a static thing. You can only play so much with it. If you play too forward, you're gonna die. Uh, So it's mostly you're baiting or you avoid hits. Warrior has actually one of the more interesting ones as far as mechanics goes. They got one of those Trolls Blood effects, and then they got a effect that drops CC after a certain amount of time. Which I mean, like I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't even. I feel like it realistically shouldn't even have a timer. Honestly. Well,
You're
maybe.
talking Shake It Off.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
a weird ability.
I think like a less timer maybe because 30 seconds that's
I think
pretty
it's
big.
10. It drops whatever you're on in 10.
I thought it was 30. I'm
Yeah,
looking it
it's
up.
yeah. Well, it's 30. It'd be no point to use it because everything lasts 30 seconds.
Checking right now. I always thought
it's
it was 30. I've always
it's
taken it as 30, so let me
it's
double check.
10. It's 10. It's you cast it and then you choose something and then if it's still applicable in 10 seconds, then it's removed. But if you have like 3 states on you, then you just good luck. I mean, I think it only removes one as far as I remember.
Yeah, get fucked.
But yeah. Yeah, but Warrior, I mean, Warrior has a lot of problems where they get hit by every kind of magic in the world, but you do have an ability to let you take a lot of space. You can take a lot of space because you can easily take space while taking hits or blocking whatever. You could force your way through an area, and then you can when you finally get killed, you true grit, and then you sit there on a timer, and they can choose to release you or whatever, but you're still the warrior. They obviously didn't hit you a million times to kill you. They hit like a couple spots, and then they one got focused, and then you sit there. But I mean, it has all the benefits of the other stuff we've talked about, where you control space because you're a threatening person sitting there in a state, and they leave you alone, and you come out of it.
And like a weirdly oddly thing you could do as warrior too is do insult on an enemy healer.
Yeah, if you can insult the enemy healer, you gotta you
It's
gotta make
fucking
sure
great.
people know how stuff works ahead of time, because you insult some random healer, and all they do is play healer. Like they're not gonna know that they're not allowed to cast on people anymore.
Yeah, so
You know.
essentially for those who don't know, if you cast insult on a healer, they can't heal their own
Yeah,
teammates.
insult makes it so they can only target you with magic abilities or combat. Um, and that
Unless
includes
attacked by somebody else.
And that includes not being able to target allies with magic abilities and not attacking other people. So insult's
Yeah,
very
if
good.
you
Insult's very good on supports, because then there's just dead time where they can't do anything.
and even then, like the best way to do it is like if you think, not even just healers, but say like you cast insult on like the big enemy player, and then they're like looking at you, and you're like, oh shit, you literally just run away, and they still can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And as well with True Grit, you can also shake it off your True Grit. So you can turn
Yeah,
your
that's.
True Grit into a
I
10
think that's
second
where I was getting the
timer.
30 seconds mixed up.
Yeah, you
I
can
think that's
turn
what I was
your you
getting
can
mixed
turn
up
your
with.
30 seconds to a 10-second timer, where then you then keep going, which drastically improves your ability to be threatening as far as taking space goes. Other than that, Warrior's very simple in terms of mechanics. Like you're a martial, you melee people. That's what
Throw
you
a
got as a
javelin every once in
class.
a while.
That's what you got as a class. And there's not a lot to talk about unless I go
Um,
into very specific cases.
no, you're just meant there to soak up damage. That's all you're there for.
Yeah, you're there to be threatening, beat people. I mean, you beat certain classes if they think they can melee you, and you're a sponge basically, especially for
Yep.
magic. You're big and threatening, and it takes a lot to kill you, so people continuously cast magic on you until they don't have it anymore. We got finally we got Wizard, the premier midliner. Um, they got teleport, force barrier, word self, and astral intervention as like main line defensive mechanics that you can use on reflex. But like the only one that's really good is teleport. Word self is like a 5th level magic that you only ever get 2 of, so it's very hard to justify. But it does block any 2 things, or any 1 to 2 things. But for the most part, is if you're playing as a wizard, like the value you're going to get as far as escapes is you take whatever space you're going to take, do your casting. It's great if you want to focus on using spell balls and stuff. You can take pretty close pretty close quarters positions, so you have like a very high chance of hitting your targets and stuff. And then if anything approaches you enough, or you misplay, you get blocked out or whatever, you miss a throw, then you just swift teleport and you leave. And the class also gets as many innates as it wants, so
Yeah.
you can have as many teleports as you want realistically. But I mean, as far as efficiency goes, you should probably just sack your life so you can keep playing like that. I don't think it's worth hanging on to like a very long extended life when you're using spell balls, especially because dying lets you go get them again. Dying gives you your teleports back, and then all the other per life magic you're probably using to supplement spell balls, which is like hold person and stuff, which is also per life, and then break cons, which prevent the caster counterplay while you're trying to take space. Force barrier is just like there's force barrier, and then there's astral dimension at level 2, which astral dimension for wizard is like once per life charge times 3, I think, and like that's even if it's not charged, which I don't remember. Um, like it's still a better frequency of force barrier, which is just per refresh, and because it's insubstantial that you yourself cast on yourself voluntarily, you can come out of it whenever you want, which is drastically better than being stuck in a frozen timer for 30 seconds with no real out other than that. Like, yeah. As far as that goes, is there anything I want to recover or go over? Mm,
Um, let's see.
I think we've
Anti
been.
Paladin has awe.
Yeah, I had anti paladin and paladin on here, but then I looked at it again and I'm like, they don't really get anything that's super reactive.
Yeah, both
They
have
just
awe.
they just get Oz. Like you can use it to keep people away from you, so you can pick your battles a little bit. But
Same
as
thing. Pick
far,
awe and just run at them. Make them run away.
yeah, yeah, I'd say this isn't the most informative one. I mean, we're just supposed to cover stuff, you know. Um,
We're just here to talk shit.
yeah, we're gonna get. Well, the plan is we're gonna get into much more detailed stuff. I'm just kind of hitting topics loosely as I go. The next one I think will probably be combat oriented, and then after that we'll probably break into maybe particular classes if I don't decide on something else, and then we will have very in-depth discussions about edge cases and all that. So unless you got anything else to say, I think that's it for me.
Not so much on the defensive stuff. I know we'll get over more with like more offensive and things like that,
Yeah,
and I'll definitely have a lot more to say. We say it like that.
yeah, I'll say so.
That's when we get into the fun stuff.
I say if there's anything to take away from this is that the main thing is that your defensive mechanics should supplement the way that you play. So look for utilizing defensive mechanics to allow you to either play a certain way, because having them allows you to get away with things that you can't otherwise, or
Or
um,
other people.
you know, focus on it being an out to being punished by stuff when we are otherwise playing. And in a lot of cases, like, you know, it's going to be magic is going to be the main threat, or it's going to be your being approached by a melee matchup that's not in your favor, and you're going to have to decide that you need an out. Or you're just gonna you sometimes your team will lose to your side or whatever, and you'll get collapsed on a little bit, and you like you don't think you can make it out or whatever. Or you can even just use that opportunity to do something threatening. You just teleport past their line, and then instead of collapsing on you, they'll consider whether or not they want to chase you, and you make things difficult for people. But the biggest thing is, if you have these utilities active, able to be used, um, it should not. Ideally you don't get punished. You don't find situations where someone ran up to you and hit you in the chest. Like those situations are avoidable, and the point of having these abilities is that you use them to avoid situations like that. So that's what I have to say
Don't
about
fuck around and find out.
it. All right. So I think we're concluding this.
Yeah.